I woke up to the sound of scissors snipping near my ear. In the dim light of my son's guest bedroom, I could see Jessica standing over me with a pair of kitchen shears, cutting chunks of my silver hair. The hair I'd been growing out for 3 years fell in clumps onto the pillow. "There," she whispered, stepping back to admire her work. "Now you look your age, Grandma." I lay perfectly still, pretending to sleep as she gathered the evidence and tiptoed out. My heart was pounding, but I forced my breathing to stay steady. This was the final straw in months of escalating cruelty, but Jessica had no idea what she'd just unleashed. When morning came, I shuffled to the bathroom mirror and saw the damage. My hair was butchered, uneven chunks missing from both sides, making me look like I'd been attacked by a lawnmower. I touched the jagged edges gently, feeling tears well up in my eyes. "Morning, Mom," my son David called out cheerfully as I entered the kitchen. "Sleep well." Jessica was at the stove making pancakes, humming to herself. When she turned around and saw me, she gasped dramatically, covering her mouth with her hand. "Oh my goodness, Margaret. What happened to your hair?" David looked up from his newspaper and nearly choked on his coffee. "Mom, what, did you cut your own hair?" "I must have done it in my sleep," I said quietly, touching the choppy strands. "I've been having some confusion lately." Jessica's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "Poor thing. At your age, these things happen. Maybe it's time to consider professional care." My son nodded gravely. "We've been talking about that, Mom. There are some really nice facilities." "David," I interrupted gently, "could you drive me to the salon this morning? I need to fix this mess." "Of course, Mom. Jessica, can you watch the kids?" "Anything for family," Jessica said sweetly, but I caught the smirk she tried to hide. At the salon, I sat in the chair while Marcy, who'd been cutting my hair for 15 years, examined the damage with growing horror. "Margaret, honey, who did this to you? This looks like it was done with kitchen scissors while you were sleeping." "It was," I said simply. Marcy's face darkened. "That's abuse, plain and simple. You don't have to protect whoever did this." "I'm not protecting anyone," I replied, meeting her eyes in the mirror. "Could you just make it look presentable? And take plenty of pictures for my records." After the salon, I made another stop, to my lawyer's office. Patricia Chen had been handling my affairs since my husband passed 5 years ago. She was one of the few people who knew the full extent of my assets. "Margaret," she exclaimed when I walked in. "Your hair." "Jessica," I said simply. Patricia's expression hardened. She'd been warning me about my daughter-in-law's behavior for months. "Do you want to press charges?" "Not yet. But I want to activate the clause in David's mortgage. How quickly can we do it?" Patricia consulted her files. "The house is fully owned by your trust, with David listed as a beneficiary. Jessica's name isn't on any documents. We can issue a 30-day notice immediately." "Do it." Back at David's house, I found Jessica hosting a coffee gathering with her book club friends. She'd positioned herself so everyone could see me when I walked in, clearly intending to humiliate me further. "Ladies, you remember David's mother, Margaret," Jessica announced loudly. "She's been having some episodes lately. This morning she butchered her own hair in her sleep." The women looked at me with mixture of pity and concern. Mrs. Patterson from next door shook her head sadly. "Bless your heart, Margaret. These things happen as we get older." I smiled graciously. "Thank you for your concern. Jessica's been such a devoted caregiver through this difficult time." Jessica preened at the praise, not catching the edge in my voice. "I hate to interrupt," I continued, "but Jessica, could I speak with you privately for a moment?" "Of course," she said, leading me to the kitchen while her friends whispered behind us. "I just wanted to thank you," I said quietly. Jessica looked confused. "Thank me?" "For helping me see things clearly. I've been documenting everything, you know. The way you've been treating me. And this morning's incident really opened my eyes." "I don't know what you mean," Jessica said, but her face had gone pale. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos from the salon, clear before and after shots that would be admissible in court. Kitchen scissors. While I slept. Very distinctive cut pattern. Jessica's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "But don't worry," I continued sweetly. "I'm not pressing charges. I'm doing something much more educational. I handed her an envelope that Patricia had prepared. Jessica's hands shook as she opened it and read the 30-day eviction notice. This is impossible, she whispered. David owns this house. Actually, no. My trust owns this house. David was supposed to inherit it when I died, but there's a clause about elder abuse that transfers ownership back to me immediately. I smiled pleasantly. My lawyer suggested it after my husband passed. Very forward-thinking of her. Jessica's coffee cup crashed to the floor. You can't do this. We have children. David will never let you. David doesn't have a choice. He's not the homeowner, darling. I am. The book club ladies had gone quiet in the living room, clearly hearing our conversation. Jessica realized her friends were witnessing her humiliation and her face turned crimson. You evil old witch, she hissed. Language, dear. Your book club friends might hear you. I picked up a dish towel and began cleaning the spilled coffee. You have 30 days to find new accommodations. I suggest you start looking immediately. The rental market is quite competitive these days. David walked in just as Jessica was having what could only be described as a complete meltdown. What's going on? He demanded. Your mother is trying to steal our house. Jessica shrieked. David looked at me in confusion. Mom, what is she talking about? I handed him a copy of the eviction notice. His face went white as he read it. This says you own our house, he said slowly. I've always owned your house, David. The mortgage payments you thought you were making? Those were going into a savings account for your children's college funds. I was planning to transfer the deed to you when you turned 40. I touched my butchered hair. But circumstances have changed. This is insane. Jessica screamed. You can't take our home. I'm not taking anything, dear. I'm simply exercising my rights as the legal owner. You've made it very clear that I'm not welcome in this family, so I thought you'd be happy to have me elsewhere. The book club ladies were openly staring now, phones probably recording everything. Jessica's carefully constructed image as the perfect wife and mother was crumbling in real time. David, do something, she demanded. My son looked between us, finally understanding the position he was in. Mom, surely we can work this out. Jessica didn't mean to assault me while I slept? To humiliate me in front of strangers? To suggest I need to be institutionalized? I shook my head sadly. David, I raised you better than this. It's just hair. Jessica shrieked. It grows back. You're right. Hair does grow back. Trust and respect, however, take much longer to rebuild. I looked at my son. I'll be staying at the Marriott downtown until I find a more permanent arrangement. Patricia Chen will handle all communication regarding the property transfer. You're really doing this, David said quietly. Yes, I am. But David, this doesn't have to affect your relationship with me. You're welcome to visit anytime. Without Jessica, of course. Jessica let out a sound like a wounded animal. You can't separate us. I'm not separating anyone. You're free to live wherever you choose. You just can't live in my house while treating me like garbage. One of the book club ladies, Mrs. Henderson, cleared her throat. Jessica, dear, perhaps we should reschedule this meeting. The women filed out quickly, whispering among themselves. Within hours, the whole neighborhood would know that the perfect family on Maple Street wasn't so perfect after all. That evening, I sat in my hotel room, running my fingers through my newly styled short hair. Marcy had done a beautiful job making the best of Jessica's sabotage. My phone buzzed with a text from David. Mom, please reconsider. Jessica says she's sorry. I typed back, I'm sure she is. Sorry she got caught. 3 weeks later, I watched from my new downtown condo as a moving truck pulled up to my old house. Jessica had found an apartment across town, much smaller, much less prestigious. David had tried to convince me to change my mind dozens of times, but I held firm. My daughter-in-law had made one critical error in her campaign against me. She'd assumed I was powerless simply because I was older, because I lived modestly, because I didn't flaunt my wealth. She'd mistaken kindness for weakness and patience for stupidity. The truth was, I'd built a small empire over the decades, rental properties, business investments, trust funds. I'd hidden my success behind cardigans and casseroles, letting people underestimate me because it was easier that way. But Jessica had pushed too far. As I sipped my morning coffee and looked out at the city skyline, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months: peace. My hair was growing back beautifully, styled in a chic silver pixie cut that made me look 10 years younger. My new condo was elegant and modern, with a doorman who treated me with respect. Most importantly, I'd learned that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to let them face the consequences of their actions. Jessica would have to learn to treat people with dignity the hard way. And if she ever decided to apologize sincerely and change her behavior, well, I'd always been a reasonable woman. But until then, she could learn what it felt like to live without the safety net she'd taken for granted. After all, respect, like hair, takes time to grow back.